Brian.
Had a girl.
Can everybody see the screen that I just shared to you that says
I got
Lions
it.
Club International Liability Insurance? Okay. We are going to do a whirlwind overview of this tonight, and I'm going to talk to you about the key points. Um, we'll come right back to that here in just a second. Uh,
And I think you're good to get started.
okay. I'm going to jump right in. So just a quick for all of you. Let's see here. Okay. Um, Lions has a liability insurance program. Um, the nice thing to know is that there's no action needed on your part to be covered by this insurance, except a couple of things that I'm going to cover here in a few minutes, and those are very critical things. So let's go through the insurance plan and so you know what's going on. This is a copy of that document that I downloaded to you. Um, the named insured on it is the International Association of Lions Clubs, all district and all individual Lions clubs organized or chartered by said association. Leo clubs and any other Lions organization owned, controlled, or operated by a named insured. Okay, so what that means is if your club has a Leo club attached to it, Neil, this is your club right now in our side of the state, and I know there's several over in 39W as well. Those Leo clubs are insured through your club because they're attached to your club. Okay, who it covers. Lion and Leo directors, officers, employees, and members are included as additional insureds for liability incurred while acting in such capacities. Individual volunteer workers are included as additional insureds for liability incurred while working in Lions projects. Um, Persons or organizations, public or private, granting use of premises for Lions activities are included. Okay, so I'm going to cover what this covers and what doesn't cover. If you notice, every single one of those states, um, Lion and Leo directors who are covered for liability. This does not cover your Lions Club members for personal injuries that they may sustain. This is strictly a liability insurance, meaning it's covering your liability towards the public at large. It also says it covers a persons or organizations granting use of premises. That means if you are holding your Lions meeting at a restaurant and you do something dumb and start the restaurant on fire and burn it down, you're covered up to the limit of the insurance. What that means, Gary, is no more flaming cocktails.
Oh, dang. I'm looking forward to that.
um, okay, so this is a really good policy. Um, the policy has a $2 million aggregate limit, meaning that it will cover up to $2 million, but the limit of liability to each occurrence is $1 million. So what that means is it will cover $2 million. And if two people get hurt, it'll cover them at $1 million each. Products completed, operations aggregate. That's a fancy term for saying if you guys are putting on a basketball tournament, for example, you're covered up to, because that's your product that you're producing. Personal and advertising injury limit of $1 million. What that means is if you, acting as a director, officer, employee, or member of the club, say something or do something that harms another person, you are covered up to $1 million. Damages to the premises rented to you is $1 million. Premise medical limit expense, any one person, is $5,000. Now, that means if somebody gets hurt on the premise, they're going to pay up to $5,000. But bear in mind that above that 5,000, the rest of the general liability policy kicks in. So if the activities of your club or Lions organization are such that you desire a larger limit of liability, and guys, I'm going to stress this, $2 million sounds like a lot, but in today's world, it's not really a lot. Okay. We see 5, 10, $20 million judgments awarded. Thankfully, we're in a fairly conservative state as far as judgment. But if you're putting on something that you feel that somebody or the people involved could get seriously hurt, this would be something like Spudman that goes on over in the Burley Club. They strongly suggest that you go out and get a excess liability or an umbrella policy locally. And basically what that does, two different names, two different policies, but that basically do the same thing. You go and say, I've got a general policy from Lions up to 2 million, but I feel like I need to be insured for $5 or $10 million. Your local insurance agent can say, okay, we can get you this policy that'll cover above and beyond. So what they do is where Lions policy stops at 2 million, from 3 to 10 million, if that's what you insure for, that policy will kick in. That's something you need to go talk to an individual person about. Okay, so the following coverages are provided. We talked about the completed operations, owners and contracts, protective liability, personal injury, and advertising injury. If you advertise that, for example, if you advertise an event that's going on and you have somebody that flies in and incurs a huge amount of money flying in and staying at the hotel and everything, and you have to cancel the event for unseen circumstances, they can actually sue you for advertising liability. And because the event didn't happen and they incurred expenses, there's other things about advertising injury. That can be that you advertise an event occurring at such a time and such a place, and you don't hold that event, people can come back and go after you for it. So we're going to go down through this next section, automotive liability. It basically says, guys, that it covers hired or non-owned automobiles, meaning if you're doing a function and you've hired a bus to transport people, the bus gets in a wreck, it will help cover some of the damage there. What it does not do is it does not cover physical damage for any vehicle used in connection with Lions activities. So again, this comes back to this is a liability only policy, but it doesn't cover physical damage. So if you're driving a vehicle and you get in a wreck, your own personal insurance has to cover that. So bear that in mind if you're doing things with your vehicle, if you're in a parade with your own personal vehicle and somebody falls off the float in front of you and runs over you, their your liability to them will be covered, but any damage that you may do to another vehicle or hitting a float or something wouldn't be covered. Any questions up to this point? Am I throwing things at you pretty quick?
None in the chat so far, Brooke.
Okay. So most often, if you guys enter into an agreement to rent a facility, um, you'll see in that agreement something that's called a hold harmless agreement, which means you have to say, I've got insurance that covers me for the liability for anything that's happening. And so what happens is Lions says, okay, we'll cover you. We'll cover anything that the Lions do to damage that facility, cause problems in that facility. This does not mean that everything in the lease is going to be covered. Lions specifically in here said if you're entering into a contract, you should have an attorney look it over. Just wise, 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 wise. Okay, let's talk about what it doesn't cover. Liability arising out of employment-related perils. We do not, as clubs, employ anyone, so that's why that's there. Liability arising out of the operation, maintenance, or use of automobiles owned by a named insured is not covered.
What does named insured mean?
Named insured means the Lions Club, let's go back up here to the top and we'll talk about that real quick. So a named insured is defined as the International Association of Lions Clubs, all districts, single, sub, and multiple of said association. So the main Lions Club, our districts, our multi-districts, all individual Lions clubs organized and chartered by said association, Leo clubs, and any other Leo's organization owned or controlled by a named insured or by individual Lion members while acting on behalf of named insured. So basically what it says is it covers your club and you as named insureds. That's
But if you're in an accident, they aren't going to pay. They're going to have you, they refer you to your own insurance company.
correct. If you're in an automobile accident, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what we just said, right?
It's like we don't have any insurance at all because they're telling you that you have to deal with your own insurance company, that they won't pay anything. And I don't know if you heard when Hamer had their fireworks last year, there was a massive explosion, and one of the Lions owned a really nice trailer, and he had tubes set up on the trailer for certain fireworks to go off. That trailer was almost completely demolished. The tubes were all demolished. They wouldn't pay 1 cent. The Lions Club had to pay for his trailer, and it cost almost $5,000 to replace it.
Okay, and I'm going to tell you exactly why this is. This policy is a liability policy. It is not a property coverage policy.
By liability, what do you mean? Damage to someone else?
Damage to someone else other than a member of your club.
But what if a member of the Lions Club got injured? Who's going to pay for that?
They are. They are.
Who? The
Lions.
No.
The Lions?
No.
No.
The Lions
Sorry.
insurance?
No, the Lions insurance will not pay if a member gets injured.
So there's no point in having that insurance.
Now hold it. This is Peggy. We had one of our lions get hurt I can't remember if it was just before the fair or just after. We were either setting up or tearing down, and they paid for everything.
Okay.
It skinned his arm. He was moving equipment, and it peeled his arm, and they paid for everything.
Okay. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't, but I'm let's keep going. Phyllis,
Honey, will you explain, let Phil, let's get Phyllis's question answered. Phyllis, will you give us an example of, are you asking about specifically about the trailer, or are you asking about the Lions? Like,
I'm asking about the trailer. There was a pickup that had its windshield shattered when that blast went off. They replaced the windshield. They didn't have him go to his insurance company, his own insurance company, to replace it. They paid for the cost of that, but they wouldn't pay 1 cent on the trailer.
did they
And
give
I
you
can-
reasons?
okay, let me ask, I'm going to ask a question here. First of all, I am in a state that I am not an insurance expert as
Mhm.
far as this. What I'm doing is I'm giving you the same training that I received. So
Okay.
let's talk about, was the windshield that got broken, was that car owned by a Lion in the
Yes.
club? Okay.
It was.
Okay. And then I can't specifically answer to why they paid for one and not the other.
Oh, that's kind of weird.
So I have
You would
can you
would
hear
have,
me?
yes, you would have to direct that question specifically to Lions Legal. I'm not even going to attempt to answer that question because I don't have everything.
It was almost like it wasn't even worth having Lions insurance. And he said if someone had been injured, they would pay for medical. But we went ahead and bought our own policy from a private insurance company just to make sure we're covered for, like, when we have meals and things, in case there's a massive food poisoning or people got sick or something or injured, that we would have coverage, because the Lions International insurance was just absolutely hard to deal with and wouldn't pay for a thing except that windshield.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you this goes back to what Lions is talking about doing that additional. And
I forgot to
Phyllis,
raise my hand. I
Phyllis,
can't figure it out.
I'll be happy to have this discussion with you when we're done, but we need to keep moving. But
I understand.
I am going to say that the Lions insurance is worth having
Yes.
because they do pay, and you don't have to do anything. We're gonna talk about a few things here as we go down. There's some exceptions that are written in here. Okay, we're gonna come back around. So bear in mind, this only covers up to $2 million. It's okay for like a one-time thing. One person gets injured, one building gets damaged, but if you're having a big event, if you're selling food, if you're doing anything, if you have the potential for injury above and beyond maybe one or two people, yes, by all means. And even in this policy, it says go obtain additional insurance, but make sure when you go do that additional insurance, don't take out a regular insurance policy. Go tell them, hey, Lions gives us liability up to $2 million. We want an excess liability policy or an umbrella policy. It's going to be way cheaper to do it that way than to take out a full general liability policy. Okay.
Brooke, there's a comment. Amy wants to make a comment. Go ahead, Amy.
Can you hear me?
Steve. Yeah, go ahead. You're good.
Oh, okay. I did not think anyone could hear me. So I think I understand probably what happened with that trailer. Based on what the policy is stating, automotive insurance, personal automotive insurance is like the primary insurance. on a personal vehicle. So they're going to cover that first through the personal insurance versus this liability policy. But if there was a personal injury, then I believe this will be primary. And as far as the windshield goes, I'm not clear on why that was covered since it's part of a property, but that's my semi-educated
Well,
guess based on working for an insurance company for 5 years.
yeah.
And when you work with fireworks, the rules are different.
Yeah, that can be.
It might have had something with the fact that it was fireworks on a trailer.
Okay.
So,
I'm not sure. So,
Okay.
but Phyllis, we'll talk about that a little bit later too. Okay.
Thank you.
I have an answer to the question. I just wanted to get farther down here. So as we're talking about this, it's pretty simple. Right in the thing, it says liability arising out of the operation, maintenance, or use of automobiles owned by a named insured is not covered. So,
Like Amy said, that if it's owned by the named insured, it's not covered.
correct. They say the same thing for aircraft is not covered. Watercraft is not covered. Pollution and asbestos exclusions apply. Okay, guys, this next one is a big one. The liquor liability exclusion applies. Liability arising out of the sale or serving of alcoholic beverages is not covered. If you're going to have alcohol in an event, and it doesn't matter whether you charge someone for it or whether it's just there and shared with everybody, if you got a cooler full of beer, if they go out and get in a wreck or get injured because of the alcohol that you provided, a court of law will hold you guys liable. So if you're going to go have liquor liability, if you're going to have alcohol at your event, and right here it said the association's experience in liquor liability situations is such that it cannot recommend and in fact discourages clubs from participating in events involving the sale or serving of alcoholic beverages. If you're gonna have any kind of alcohol at your event, whether you're serving it for free, whatever, you have got to go get your own policy that's going to cover that. If you don't, every single officer of your club and every single member of the club who served alcohol can be sued individually as a liable party. That means your home, your jobs, your belongings are all put at risk. Don't take the chance. It's better. Lions has just flat said it's not a good idea to have alcohol at your events. Probably a good idea to follow that.
Could I just add something? I'm sorry to interrupt. We were told when we bought that private insurance that any one of these events, we could be held liable, not just alcohol, but for any one of these events, if something happened,
Yep.
the Lions members themselves could be held liable as well as the Lions International.
Yes. I appreciate the input, but if you guys could hold your comments until the end so we can get through this, because we do have a limited amount of time. These are some things that I'm going to actually be bringing up later, and I do appreciate the input, but I want to, as we go down through, I want to, we'll talk about those things. So, special activities. One of the things that Lions I don't believe that we have any clubs in our district that own aircraft or automobiles directly. Some may own trailers. Well, I take that back. We do have one in our district that owns a truck. Those you have to make sure that you've got insurance on all of those outside of the Lions insurance, because Lions just will not cover those. They also tell you that if you hire somebody to conduct an activity, so if you bring in an outside vendor, for example, you bring in somebody, you're having a big family fun day, and you hire a contractor to bring in a bunch of bounce houses or rides or anything like that, or to provide food, Lions emphasizes that you ask them for a certificate of insurance. Now, I'm going to explain a certificate of insurance kind of quick here because you may be asked to provide one as well. The only time you need to print a document in coverage, the only time you have to print a document showing your coverage of your Lions insurance is if somebody asks you for a certificate of insurance. That certificate shows those people that they are covered, and we'll go into that here in a minute. But also, if you're bringing in an outside concessionaire or an outside vendor, you ask them to provide you with a certificate of their liability insurance. And if they don't have one, do not hire them for the event. If they cannot provide a certificate of insurance to you, do not hire them for that event. This is any outside concessionaire, whether it's food. For example, if you're doing a tournament and you're bringing in food trucks there to be there at the tournament, you have to have a certificate of insurance from every one of those food trucks because their liability becomes primary because they're the ones providing it. Okay, now, safety officer. This is a big change that Lions has done. We have been told that if you do not have a safety officer and you do not complete the inspection sheet, which I'm going to show you here in a minute, Lions will not, or I should say, may not cover your claim. So it's really important. Each club should designate a safety officer, and they need to review the book for pages 4, 5, and 6, that book that I let you download. Review each club activity from a safety standpoint and identify potential hazards. Complete the self-inspection checklist for each activity. Okay, now I'm going to pop over onto that for just a minute. We're going to talk about this. This is their self-inspection checklist. Now, this is a general checklist from the smallest event to the largest event. But that being said, if you're doing an event, you need to have a written safety plan for that event that's developed by the leaders of your club and your safety officer. You need to have that written safety plan in place, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. This is coverage for you guys because not only should you have this in place, but it's probably a good idea to have your safety officer document, did we post signs for safety? Oh, here's the signs we posted. Here's where we posted them. The more documentation you have, if you're sued, to show that you went out of your way to ensure that somebody's safe, the less likely you are for them to get a big award against you. So, okay, we'll just go through this real quick. It covers parking. some of these things, you know, if you're doing this in a little small town, you're probably not going to have security officers in your parking area. If you're doing it in a larger town, Boise, even Pocatello, we've had a lot of vehicle theft here. So you may need to have some lions walking around to make sure that nobody's messing with the cars. The parking area free of holes, cracks, puddles, ice, and debris. Um, Somebody walking through that parking area, all those trip hazards need to be removed, or have safety cones put over them so that people are safe. Is the lighting adequate? All of this stuff is stuff that you're going to be asked about. Adequate signs for directing traffic. Are police used to direct traffic into or out of parking lots? Are individuals directing traffic wearing safety vests to be seen by individuals? Are there sufficient security personnel to control crowds? These are a lot of things that we don't think about when we're planning an event, and that's the reason that Lions has created this checklist. And if there's something on here that you answer no to, you should be doing a real heavy evaluation saying, does this just not apply to our event? Or is this something in our event that we probably should be thinking about making sure that this is happening? If you're inside of a building, are there adequate number of marked exits? Is the number of occupants capacity controlled? So if you're in a building, and most commercial buildings will have a little sign, I'm sure you've all set them or all seen them, that say maximum capacity, let's say 300 people. Well, if you have 450 people in a room that says maximum capacity 300 people, and you have an event that causes injury and harm to people, guess what? You have got yourself a huge liability problem. So I'm not going to go down through all of these, because it'd take a whole training session just to go through this and talk about it. But go through this checklist, look through the checklist, and I am going to point out just a couple of things. Right on here, it stresses again those certificates of liability insurance from outside operators, contractors, and concessionaires. Bottom one is a big one. Do you have adequate number of trained and/or professional medical personnel? Are all medical supplies first aid? So if you're having an event, get people who are trained professionals to be there. Get some EMTs to be there. Get some, in the case of our club, we do a big basketball tournament, and we have the trainers that come in from the university, and they bring their big trailer with all their first aid supplies and everything to cover any injuries that we have there. Don't take that on yourself. The people need to be trained, and that's not just a 5-minute first aid, I read the book course. You need people that are trained. Make sure you have people there. Okay.
I want to make a comment about that. A lot of times the sports medicine programs at the colleges around you will do that for nothing. So reach out to them. And those programs usually are connected with the high schools. So they're always looking for hours and things, and there's always a supervisor that comes. So reach out to those people. And in the Pocatello Blackfoot area, you can reach out to me, and I can give you that contact information because I can see you on there, Shirley. So, but I know that like Boise, I'm sure Boise State has a huge one. I'm sure there's somebody in the Twin Falls area. So there's people around that have those programs that we can reach out to, and they do it for no cost because we're giving them a kudos of being there and putting a little blurb on our advertising for them to be there. So reach out and use those services. Go ahead, Brooke. Sorry.
Okay. This is really important on the bottom. It says this form should be completed and kept on file for future reference. Your safety plan that you're going to create, this form, copies of the pictures that you take of the safety precautions, you guys should keep these just like legal records and keep them for 7 years. And I know that sounds like a lot of headache and paperwork, but believe me, if you get sued, this little document plus your safety plan will save your backside. So back to what we were on. It says ensure that there is adequate supervision of the event for the protection of Lion members, spectators, participants, and the public. I'm not sure what happened at that fireworks thing, but maybe there should have been more supervision there. I don't know, but that's really important. Again, the certificates of insurance from anybody that you bring in, and guys, don't bring in a food vendor that works out of their home that doesn't have a certificate of insurance. Because if a food vendor is a licensed approved food vendor or a licensed approved concessionaire of any kind, they're going to have liability insurance and they can provide you with that insurance. If they don't have it, don't hire them. Just don't, because you're opening yourself to a huge amount of liability. Okay. So Lions says they want you to know they consider these hazardous activities: use of golf carts, dunk tanks, carnivals, circuses, and rodeos, events where alcohol is served, amusement rides, snowmobile, go-kart, skateboard, and other races and contests. That's all races and contests, guys. Rock concerts, fireworks display and sales, parks, playgrounds, swimming pools, construction and demolition projects, tractor pulls. Your club should seriously consider the risk involved in conducting these or similar types of activities. If they are held, the safety officer should develop and monitor. So we can't just create a safety plan. We have to monitor it during the entire. Your safety officer has to monitor the safety conditions of your event all the way through your event. So they tell you right here, the safety officer should develop and monitor a safety plan for the activity. One of the first questions you're going to get asked by Lions Insurance, and I'm going to tell you, Lions Insurance isn't the only insurance company that's difficult to deal with. If you've ever dealt with an insurance company, their number one job is to not pay out your claim. That's the truth of the insurance industry. I say I'm not an insurance expert just to keep my liability. I was a licensed insurance agent for a number of years. But I'm just telling you that when the company doing your insurance tells you that you have to have a safety officer and should develop and monitor a safety plan, yeah, you better have that done, and it better be in writing, and you better be able to show, yes, this is our checks. And it doesn't hurt. Your safety guy goes around. If he finds something that doesn't meet with the safety plan, he writes down, hey, I saw this. It didn't meet with our safety plan, or we had this risk, and this is what we did to correct it. If that's in writing in his book, you should just, at the last meeting, Lion Lisa had a great suggestion to create a 3-ring binder for your safety monitor, and all of these plans and everything are kept in that binder, and that binder is passed down from year to year, because a lot of the times you're going to have the same event over and over again. And if the safety monitor from this year has all the stuff in it for, say, your baseball tournament that you're conducting. He has all that stuff in there. Then next year, the safety officer can open it up and look and say, oh, okay, this is what we did for the tournament last year. These were the hazards we identified, so we specifically need to write these into our plan. And then they can develop the plan for that year and put it into place. Don't reuse the plan. Create a new plan, but use your previous year's plan as a resource. I'm sorry if I'm burying you with information. The premium payment is paid by Lions International. You don't have to pay anything. The cost of the insurance program directly related to the cost of claims. So that's covered by Lions. So coverage is afforded by the program is automatic. If you were required to provide evidence of coverage, a certificate of insurance, you can immediately go online. If you click on lionsclub.org and just type insurance certificate into the search bar, it'll take you right where you can go to print that. If any of you need help doing that, I'd be happy to walk you through it. The coverage is good coverage. Is it all inclusive? No. Will you find an all inclusive insurance policy? Not without paying a whole lot of money, but guys, this is amazing that our club provides this.
Brooke, we have a question.
Sure.
Nikki, go ahead and ask your question.
So when I'm reading this claims costs and it says that the cost of each claim adds to the amount paid by the International Association through payment of their dues. And since it is Lions money that pays the claims, blah, blah, blah. So that makes me wonder, are we self-insured then? So we take all that insurance premium money, we hold it in a pot, and then when there's a claim, we pay the bills? Or do we
No.
actually use the insurance carrier?
No, and I'll cover that. So let me tell you what that means. They're basically telling you with that little paragraph, if you go out and get in a wreck in your car, and the next time and it's your fault, the next time your insurance comes around, they're going to go, oh, you've had a wreck. You're going to have to, we're increasing your insurance premium because you've had a wreck and you're a higher risk now. Basically, what they're telling you is that this insurance policy is provided to the clubs, but every time there's a claim, it increases it. So what Lions is telling you is make sure you guys are making safety a priority so that you don't have accidents that cause claims that cause the premiums to go up. That's what that means. So DSP Insurance Services is the company that issues this. So this is issued by DSP Insurance Services. To make a claim, it is not a self-insurance policy by Lions in any way, shape, or form. This is a general liability insurance. So all claims or occurrences which might lead to claims should be reported promptly to Chubb Insurance Group. And in the US, you call this number right here, this 888-217-8074. So even if you think somebody might file a claim, you need to report it. So if somebody gets hurt and they say, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it, your safety officer should document the incident that happened. It should go into that binder that this incident happened, and you should report it to the Chubb Insurance Group. It just covers your liability. So When a claim situation arises, do not admit liability or suggest that compensation will be offered. Just like if you're in a car wreck, you don't get out of the car and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, it was my fault." It's not a good idea. Um, if correspondence or other communication is received indicating that a claimant feels a Lions member, club, or district is responsible for damage or injury, an immediate report should be made. So if somebody says to you, even if you're standing there and they say, "Well, you guys are liable, what's going to happen?" Your answer is, "We're going to report this to our insurance company, and here's how, you know, we're going to report it," and then give them this same 800 number to call. No Lion or Lions representative should enter into negotiations with a claimant unless requested to do so by the insurance company or the general counsel of Lions clubs, meaning the attorneys from Lions Club. So, in other words, don't say to somebody, "Oh, we'll pay your hospital bill." Let Lions do that. You can't do it. Okay. Injury to a Lion or volunteer worker working on a Lions project. Only if there is a legal liability resulting from negligence of insured. The medical expense liability of $5,000 would apply regardless of liability. So did that Lion that you were asking me about earlier get hurt because of someone else's neglect? Maybe that's why Lions paid the claim. But in general, they will not cover a Lion or volunteer worker working on a Lions project unless there's some kind of a legal liability. What is defined as legal liability? That's an attorney question. Does it cover food poisoning? Yes. Legal liability for damages to buildings and their contents rented or used by Lions. This one is tough. $1 million, $2 million doesn't go very far in today's world. Most commercial buildings are worth way more than that. So if you think that you're in a building that you guys might do damage to the building or on premises that you're renting, again, this goes back to go get an umbrella C or an excess liability policy for $5 or $10 million. Make sure you're covered. It does not cover liability for operation of automobiles, including buses, trucks, and trailers hired, rented by, or loaned to Lions organizations. Yes, the owner's insurance is primary, but this policy provides excess and contingent liability coverage for the named insured. We covered the legal liability or the club of district, as well as the liability of a Lion member or volunteer who allows use of their vehicle for Lions business. There is no coverage for physical damage to any automobile hired, rented, or loaned a Lions organization. So I'm going to say probably what the reason that trailer didn't get paid out is Lions looked at that and said, "Oh, because it had fireworks on top of it, it was loaned to the organization to put the fireworks on the top of, and so they didn't cover that." But the pickup truck was not loaned to the organization. It was a vehicle that happened to be there, and it got its windshield blown out. So that's why they covered the windshield in the insurance or in the pickup truck, but they didn't cover the trailer because the trailer had been loaned to the Lions to use for their event. Does that make sense?
It was owned by a Lion. Does that make any difference?
No, because it was loaned to the Lions.
And it was a lion who was setting off the fireworks with his own trailer.
Well,
But I can understand why he
yeah,
wasn't.
okay. Damage to property owner used by lions or in their care, custody, or control. It does not cover that. So, does it cover damage to your clubhouse if you own one? No. Does it cover? So, yeah. Um,
Hey, Brooke, we have a question.
okay.
Nikki wants to know, I'll just read it if that's okay. Nikki, it says, your document is from September of 2015 and states $1,000. Do we have an updated document? Does that sound right? That doesn't,
Which document is that? Is that the?
I,
The one,
I'm not,
the one-
Let me update. Just go on Lions and download the current document. I may have grabbed the wrong file because I've had that in my file for a while, and I have two insurance liabilities. So
I'm gonna
don't.
send them out anyways, Nikki, just a heads up. So if
Okay.
that's okay.
so Brooke, if you scroll down to the end of your page, you're gonna see a revised date. Can you go that far just for a second so I know which date I'm looking for then?
In a minute, yes, I can. We'll get down to that eventually. Let me get through this, and then we'll go down. Um, so. Lions liability for injury to a participant in a sporting event or other similar activity conducted by lions, only if there is a legal liability resulting from negligence of an insured. The medical payments coverage does not imply to a person injured while taking part in athletics. So the only way that Lions will pay out if you're holding the Spudman, for example, and somebody has a heart attack in the middle of the swim and dies. Only Lions is going to pay out on that only if there's a legal liability resulting from negligence of an insured. In other words, if you guys didn't do anything wrong and that person got insured, Lions is not going to pay out. This is where having that additional insurance comes into play. And I'm going to say this, if you guys have any questions on this coverage, what I'm telling you tonight is my personal opinion from what I've done in the insurance industry. It is by no means a legal opinion of any way, shape, or form. I encourage you to take this policy, take it to your insurance agent, and say, what else do we need to make sure we're covered for this event? Covers conventions, covers Leo's Club Branch, New Century, or Campus Club. Okay. Our club owns a building or park or other facility at which we conduct activities. These are often open to the public and admission may be charged. We also rent the building to others for various activities. Are there several phases of building operations covered? Yes. However, others who rent or use the building or facility should carry their own liability insurance. So if you have a group that comes and wants to use your Lions clubhouse, they should give you a certificate of insurance saying that if they cause damage to your building, that their insurance will cover it. If they say, well, we don't have insurance, don't rent the building to them, guys, because if they do any damage to your building, it's coming out of your own pockets. Lions is not going to cover it. Our policy does not protect the renter or user for their liability. So they need to get an insurance certificate that shows your club is an additional insured if they're using your building. That protects you guys, because if it's an outside organization that's using your building and somebody gets hurt in that building, they can sue your club as well as the outside organization. And it could get really ugly as to who's going to cover them. If alcoholic beverages are served or sold, you or the user should arrange liquor liability insurance to protect both parties if required under the laws of your jurisdiction. Even if it's not required, if you've got alcohol in any way, shape, or form in your event, even if it's a convention that you guys have a hospitality room and you're serving alcohol, get an alcohol liability coverage policy, because if somebody falls down because they're drunk and gets hurt, they can come back and sue you. Just what it is. All right. This particular document is revised October 30th of 2024. This is the most current revision that I've got. And this is the one I downloaded off of Lions. This is the one I thought I was sharing with you. I apologize. Lisa will share the updated version with you. So if you're holding a glaucoma clinic, and I'm going to change this up a little bit, and I'm not going to say glaucoma clinic. I am going to say, if you are doing vision screenings or any kind of screenings at a school, at a fair, you guys are covered. However, if a professional comes in, meaning a nurse practitioner, nurse, physician's assistant, doctor, dentist, other trained or licensed medical technicians, they're not covered by the policy. The only thing it covers is incidental malpractice, which means you or your club members. But it doesn't cover and if you have a club member who is a doctor, he is still seen as a doctor and he will not be covered. He has to have his own medical malpractice insurance to cover his liability. So make sure that if you have any licensed professionals who are helping you with any screenings that you're doing, make sure that they understand that Lion's liability policy will not cover them. Even if they're a Lion, even if they're volunteering, Lions will say, no, you are a licensed professional, health professional. Your liability insurance has to cover this. We're just going through some of these clarifying because these are common things. Is all coverage excluded events where we serve or sell alcoholic beverages? No. Policy still covers the event, but anything related to the alcohol or damages or injuries related to alcohol, they do not cover. Okay. So is medical payments coverage provided which will pay for medical expenses without regard to legal liability? So what that means is, without admitting that Lions is liable, they will pay up to $5,000 per person, up to the aggregate limit of the policy, to cover people who are injured while they're taking part in athletics. But that liability, or that $5,000 limit, doesn't apply if somebody sues the club. Then Lions covers up to their full liability. Or if you do something that causes somebody to get injured, then Lions covers up to the full value of the policy, not just that $5,000. I'm going to skip the aviation activity because I don't know if any of our clubs do. If you do, please go back and read this. Okay, a lion is driving his car on Lion's business and strikes a tree, damaging a car and injuring himself. Is there any coverage under this policy? No, we do not provide physical damage insurance on cars used on Lion's business, and there would be no legal liability or medical payment coverage for the injury to the Lion member driving their own vehicle. So if you're hearing a theme here, unless there's liability involved due to the fault of another lion, then Lions isn't going to cover it. Our club owns a refreshment trailer. This can be extended to any trailer, our sight and hearing screening trailer that we have, any trailers. If the trailer is subject to compulsory financial responsibility law, and in the state of Idaho, any motor vehicle is required to have insurance. So you have to purchase separate auto liability insurance to cover that. Our club sponsors a soccer league or little league or other similar activity, which is separately controlled by the league organization. Is the soccer league an insured under our policy? No. The league should have its own liability insurance. That's pretty clear. So if you guys co-sponsor the little league in your town, Lions will not cover that. The group should have its own liability coverage. Now that doesn't go to sponsoring a team. If you sponsor a team, that's a different thing than a league. So, okay, question. Lisa, you're muted. I'm not hearing you I'm hearing you through. There you go.
I know. Marie has a question. Go ahead, Marie. Oh, you're muted, hun.
Sorry about that.
That's
My
okay.
question comes from, we have a dance with an auction that's a fundraiser. We hold it at the Mirage, which is a licensed liquor place. They sell food and liquor. Need to purchase extra insurance to hold my fundraiser over at their establishment.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You should have a liquor liability insurance just in case somebody gets hurt.
Yeah, to be safe, I definitely would recommend that.
And the other thing that you need to do is when you hold your event there, you should go online and print a certificate of insurance naming them as an additional insured. So if during the course of your event something happens,
You have one.
you have it and you're covered. Okay, we are getting close to the end here. We're already over an hour, but I'm going to cover a few other things. I'm going to skip over some of this stuff, but okay, does our club need to purchase directors and officers liability insurance? Directors and officers liability insurance, you can purchase this through Lions. My suggestion to you is every club should have this, especially in today's suit happy environment. If you have, basically it protects the officers and the directors of the club if what you have done is seen as a wrongful act. That could be you guys didn't appoint a safety officer and Lions is balking at paying a claim, so they're going to come back after you and say you should have appointed a safety officer, and they're going to sue you personally. The directors and officers liability insurance protects the directors and officers. There's a lot of other things that people can come back. The term wrongful act is typically defined to include any error, misstatement, misleading statement, act, omission, neglect, or breach of duty committed by an insured person. So, unfortunately, if you have someone who's being a trouble causer in your club, and you go to somebody else in the club and say, boy, Johnny's sure being a trouble causer. You know, if you're the club president, Johnny's sure being a trouble causer. He's sure making it a pain to have our club meetings and be part of this. Well, if Johnny hears about that, he can come back and sue you for making that statement. So the cost of the directors and officers liability insurance is small. But it is a good idea to have. There's a reason that Lions offers it. There's limited coverage in this plan, but this is an additional above and beyond. It talks about as previously mentioned, in situations where alcohol is sold or served, you should arrange for liquor liability insurance. If your club owns or rents buildings or personal property, that's cars, vehicles, you should purchase coverage for damage to this property. So there's a lot of additional. Bottom line is, if you think you guys need additional insurance, you probably do. I'm sure that you've got a trusted insurance agent that lives in your community. Go consult with them and say, this is what we've got from Lions. This is what we need, and talk to them about that excise liability coverage or an umbrella policy. The difference being is the umbrella policy may be more likely to give you an umbrella policy if you've already got other policies in place for your club, like an automobile policy or a building policy. They will give you the umbrella above and beyond. So, all right. Should you have any further inquiries, please contact DSP Insurance Services or Lions Clubs International Legal Division. My suggestion to you is, if you are going to do this and you have questions, email Lions Legal as your first contact, because Lions Legal will respond back to you with a emailed response that you can put into your records so that you have it in your club records. Don't do phone calls. Do it by email. Email Lions Legal first. If they can't answer your specific question, they'll tell you to contact DSP Insurance Services. But you are a Lions Club, go to Lions Legal, because those attorneys represent you. That's what they're there for. Go to legal first, ask the question for legal. Okay, I have thrown a whole lot at you guys. This is the contact for the clubs to contact DSP Insurance, blah, blah, blah. This is for you guys to contact. These two numbers are for you guys. If somebody wants a claim office, this is who you give. You give this information right here. ESIS, Chicago Casualty Claim Office. This is what you give to somebody who's making a claim against you. You do not in any way accept liability. You say, this is our insurance company. You need to contact them. Let the people contact. Don't say we'll contact our insurance company for you or anything else. Give them that contact information of the claim office right there, and give it to the club. Just get it there. Okay, I am going to.
Brooke, we had a couple of comments in the chat that I just wanted
Sure.
to go over real quick.
Sure.
So Marie asked about can we elect a safety officer? And Lawrence said, yeah. I said, yes, we can. You can. And Lawrence, Larry, I know him as Larry better, said you can also ask for a volunteer or appoint somebody, and which is true. And I also made a comment that in our club, our president just asked somebody that actually had some previous experience. And then I also made the comment that I would, as an incoming club president, obviously we still have a month and a half to go in our Lion year, but I would just make sure that your club presidents are following up with that person and have a monthly report at the board meeting so that you can keep track of what's going on, especially with this new position. We don't want it to just fall by the wayside, so that we're keeping up on those notes and stuff like that. So, and then Julie up in Chalice asked, how much does the officer's insurance cost? And actually, I don't have any idea, and I don't think Brooke does. My suggestion was to reach out to the DSP insurance, which is where this Lions insurance is, and then also one of your local insurance providers, and get a quote and see which one's best. Sorry, I don't have any quotes on that, just because I don't think even our club has that. In fact, I know we don't. So,
Hey,
but
Lisa,
yeah, go ahead, John.
John. Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to add, this is a great recruiting opportunity for every club. Go recruit an insurance person in your community and help them be on point for all this stuff. So
Yeah,
just want to
definitely.
throw that
Good.
out there.
Yeah, good
Okay,
point. Thanks,
Lion
John.
Lisa, I am going to share one more thing here if I can get.
And also to follow up on Nikki's comment, I found the document that is from October 30th of 2024. I just need to figure out how to get it into the chat. So I may need to have Brooke run into the other room and put it in there. So anyways, I will put that in the chat. So
Okay, everybody should be able to see. I've got Lion's webpage pulled up. Can everybody see that?
no.
Sorry. Now
I
you
can
should be able to see it.
see it, Peggy, John, Neil. All I can see is Brooke. So
I can see it.
okay, all right. There's Kurt. Hi, Kurt.
Hey, Lisa.
How are
Okay,
ya?
so if we type up insurance, here's all of our questions. This is where you go to get your policies. It talks about the additional insurance you can get through Lions. So let's just go to this first page. This general liability insurance program book, this is right where you go to get that, guys. Here's also your self-inspection checklist. And then this talks about supplemental insurance program, the directors and officers liability insurance, additional liability insurance. So that additional liability, that excess liability we were talking about, you can actually purchase that through DSP. And as Lisa said, contact DSP Insurance Services. They can explain all the options to you and how much they are. So we'll just click on this. This shows you what's covered, but it doesn't really go into a whole lot of details. So if you're interested in those things,
I mean, you can also get a personal one through your own, say, if you're with State Farm or Farmers or whoever, you can also get a personal one just for yourself. I know that's something that Brooke and I have done just for
Yeah.
ourselves as we do Lions, just to protect ourselves. So,
And what Lisa's talking about is because Lisa and I have both, myself as a PDG, Lisa as a DG, we carry additional supplemental insurance above and beyond our normal policy. And I'm going to just leave it there. But it's wise to make sure that as an officer, you're covered. But I just typed it, like you saw, I typed in insurance and I clicked on that first one that just says insurance. Your certificate, your ability to print your certificates is right here. The general liability insurance, the program booklet, which is what I've been reviewing everything from you, is there in that self-inspection checklist. And then these are additional programs that Lions has that you can purchase, additional liability, supplemental insurance. So go explore, click on those. If it's something you feel like your club needs, contact DSP Insurance and say, hey, this is what we do with our club. What would you suggest? Get a quote from them as to how much it costs. You may find it's cheaper than your local insurance because Lions does such a bulk of insurance with them. They may get better rates. But like Lisa said, double check with your local insurance companies, call around, get quotes, just like if you were shopping for car insurance, get quotes from multiple carriers and see who is going to give you the best coverage. So I thank you for all of your questions and your input today. I hope you've all picked up something from this. If I can reiterate a couple of things, get a safety officer appointed in your club and have him do the safety checklist for every activity you have. Service
Comment, Brooke.
paycheck, everything.
go ahead.
Yeah,
Brooke, comment. I think it would behoove us to have a safety officer on our district and multiple district cabinets. I think that so they can download a lot of this critical information, which most often goes to the top of everybody's head. All we need is one real serious situation that would cost a lot of money, but I think we should have a safety officer on the cabinet, multiple district and district for a quick reference in the event that it's needed, and then they can have put on a program for the club, as much as you have put on a program for the club officers too.
I
You
think
know,
it's a great idea, Gary.
it's a great idea, and actually Lions does suggest that. And I was kind of gearing this towards the clubs, but yes, because and not just to do training, but as your districts are putting on conventions and you're putting on training seminars and you're putting on all the different things that the districts and multi-districts do, you have that same requirement from Lions to do the safety inspection checklist and all the other things, and all those records should be kept in district and multi-district as well. So
I have to talk to Lynn Johnson later tonight, so I will talk to him about that. So good suggestion, Gary. Thank you.
Could I ask a question
Of course.
about the safety inspection? Who wouldn't we have to have someone qualified in either legal or medical or like law enforcement to do that safety plan? Because if you just get somebody off the street to come in and look and see if you're safe, he's going to miss a lot of things because he isn't trained. And so wouldn't we just really be held liable if it was just some Joe Blow in our club that did the safety inspection and missed something?
well, that's where that safety inspection checklist comes in. It's pretty comprehensive. But the answer to your question is if your event is intensive enough that you think that you need that, then yes, you probably do. And I would bet to be perfectly honest with you, if you reached out to one of your safety professionals in your area, i.e. your police department or your fire department, and said, hey, we want to be safe with this. And I will give another plug here. A lot of people are afraid of talking to the health department when they're doing food related activities. If you've got food in your activity, talk to the health department, go through their online training, and follow all of their recommendations to the letter. Because if you're following all of those recommendations from your health department and you've gone through the online training called Serve Safe, and the person in charge of your food service and food staff has gone through that, you follow it to the letter, somebody gets sick, you can say, oh, no, we've been inspected by the health department. We followed the health department's recommendations to the letter. This is exactly what we did. And these people have been Serve Safe trained. Lisa has done major stuff for our club when it comes to food, and she has been at times has driven people crazy because she is so oriented towards safety, but we've fed thousands of people and never had one person get sick. So in answer to your question, yes, it's a good idea. If you feel like the thing is too big, hire an expert. If you're handling food, go to the health department, take their required training, make sure you've got the certifications that they require, get the permit that they require, let them come do an inspection. Even if you're cooking hamburgers and hot dogs for a community event, have the Serve Safe training. You know, it's just to protect you. I know if I was cooking for a community event, I would go update my Serve Safe training personally, just so I could say that I had it and made sure that that it was covered. The whole
What kind of training did you say?
It's called Serve Safe. If
Brooke, can I step in here? There's a couple of comments that I think
jump
are,
in, Lisa.
there's a couple of comments on here that I think are fantastic. Amy, do you want to talk? Do you want to make your comment first, and then Neil, and then Marie?
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, I just think, I know there's a question about, well, what if the person that's nominated or volunteers doesn't have a lot of training? As Brooke said, you know, the checklist does guide you through some of the things you need to consider. And it also is evidence that you did some due diligence, that you didn't just ignore problems. So that was
Well, and
my
I think
statement.
maybe it's a learning tool. Maybe your club president does it, you two of you do it together so that it's a learning thing too, Phyllis. Go ahead, Neil.
Yes, we have found with our health inspector down here when we do our hamburger stand, we've had a few instances where they've shown up almost as people are starting to line up and do the inspection. But, you know, the last couple of years, we've said, hey, we want this ahead of time so that, you know, we can fix something. And we found that as they're, you know, like last year, we found as the gals inspectors were coming through doing our inspection, they were as much training telling us why something should be done as just checking it off and saying you've done something wrong.
Yeah. Go ahead, Marie.
So in Oregon, it's a little bit different, but we have the inspector coming to give us, the whole club, the training for how to handle the food properly.
I think that's fantastic, Marie. I think that that's another training tool. And also Larry pointed out a recruiting tool. I think that's a fantastic vote on both parts. You know, your health department, a lot of people think, oh, it's a scary thing and we don't want them there, keep them away. But really, they're on your side. And the more contact you have with them and the better relationship you have with them, the better your food stands are going to go. Trust me. So become friends with them, have them come to your club, have them come present tonight on food safety. As if you do food booths or anything food with our Lions, which we most sometimes most clubs do something with food. Invite them, tell them what you need. Say, hey, we have this new safety thing. Here's my list. Can you help us do the first one? I'm sure that they would make time to do that. I would be surprised if they didn't.
So he volunteered to come to one of our meetings and give us the course.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think it's $5 in Oregon. I'm not sure.
Lisa, why don't you tell them more about that course? Because you've done it. Tell them what it entails and how
Well,
many
there's two
days to do.
courses. The one you talked about is called Surf Safe, and I took a 40-hour course in a week to do that. That's not necessary unless you want to be serious into it. The one that is required in the state of Idaho is I did it for like 30 minutes online. You go through this book, and then you can actually take an open book test. It's actually really simple. I don't know how Oregon is, but I do know how Idaho is. So you can you can call up the health department. They will send you a test. And every time, if you have to pass with a certain percentage, if you don't pass, then it generates a new test. So you can't do the same test over. But it's very, you learn a lot, believe it or not. It's like 20 questions. It's not hard. But you learn a lot of information about keeping, wiping surfaces down, keeping food up off the floor, even if it's cans of pop. You have to put a barrier down. So whether it's pallets or, and changing your towel buckets and, people wearing gloves and, making sure their hair is pulled back off, things like that. There's just a lot of, and then temperatures of food and making sure your condiments are on ice and changing it out and cooking hamburgers to a certain temperature and your chicken and your pork. And it's a lot of questions like that, but it's for your people's safety. And we don't want to get anybody sick or sued or anything like that. So it's just a lot of it. Once you learn it, you go, wow, okay, Marie, thanks so much for coming. She has to go. She has another meeting. We had a few people have to do that too. So thanks, Marie. I'll send you those documents. Okay.
One comment, if I may.
Sure.
That's where a cabinet safety officer would come in. He could also share the information that you just shared.
Yep.
As well.
Yep, that's true. And I have a couple hands raised here. Tim.
Yeah, I was just going to piggyback on you, Lisa, and I've taken that course a couple of times and passed it no problem. So if I can do it, then anybody can do it. It's not scary at all. It's easy.
Yeah, it's really not. And once you go through the book, a lot of it is just really, you learn it right there and then you take the test. It's not hard, but you do have to do it every year. So.
Yeah. And I'm going to put in just one more thing, and then I'm going to shut up and let everybody go enjoy the rest of their nights.
Thanks, John. Talk to you later. John has to go too.
Any training that you guys can have, invite the fire department to come in and talk to you about safety for your events. Invite the police department to come in and talk to you about safety. It does a couple of things. One, it gives you that additional safety margin of saying, yes, we sought out this training. But, the other thing it does, and John brought this up, is the more we're reaching out to the organizations in our community and inviting them to come in and be part of our organization and what we're doing, there's no reason you can't invite the fire department to have a full-time representative to your club, or the police department, or you can invite those people to come be part of your club, and then you've got the resource there at your club that you can use whenever you want. So definitely follow what we've talked about tonight. And if you have any questions, reach out to your district governors. John, Lisa, they're phenomenal people. Peggy and Paula next year are phenomenal. They'll help you. And if they don't have the answer for you, they'll find the answer. So go on the Lions website, type in insurance under that search button. That's that magnifying glass right up next to the big yellow box that says donate. Just type in insurance and click on that first link, and it'll take you to this page that has all these resources on it. Read through them. Thanks for being here tonight, guys. I hope I was able to teach you something. I hope I haven't confused you too much, and have a good evening. Lisa.
Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you. Well
Thank
done.
you, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night. See you later.
Thank you.
You're welcome.